thousands of lives, thousands in Iraq. We have wounded soldiers who I love. They're great. All over the place. Thousands and thousands of wounded soldiers. And we have nothing. We can't even go there. We have nothing. And every time we give Iraq equipment, the first time a bullet goes off in the air, they leave it. Last week I read 2,300 Humvees. These are big vehicles. Were left behind for the enemy. 2,000, you would say maybe 2, maybe 4. 2,300 sophisticated vehicles they ran, and the enemy took them. You're right. Last quarter, it was just announced, our gross domestic product, a sign of strength, right? But not for us. It was below zero. Who ever heard of this? It's never below zero. Our labor participation rate was the worst since 1978. But think of it, GDP below zero. Horrible labor participation rate. And our real unemployment is anywhere from 18 to 20%. Don't believe the 5.6. Don't believe it. That's right. A lot of people up there can't get jobs. They can't get jobs because there are no jobs. Because China has our jobs and Mexico has our jobs. They all have our jobs. But the real number is anywhere from 18 to 19 and maybe even 21%. And nobody talks about it.
I'm just going to get the date on that. Is that now, this year? Where's the date of this segment? Doesn't seem to give it. Right there should give me the date. 2015. So that's his announcing. That's Bloomsday, June 16th, 2015. He's saying all that we just heard the last 5 minutes. So we listened to 19 minutes of a 28-minute tape. So two things come to me. Remember me? Yeah, me. I'm here. Okay? I'm talking to you guys. I know you would have been swept away by Trump's charisma and forgotten about me, but I'm back. I didn't realize Trump he's becoming president because he has to do it for business reasons. His competition, his ISIS are building hotels and he's fucking him up. It's a strictly business decision. Look, if I'm going to fucking be able to compete and expand my hotel thing, I'm going to take over the White House for personal reasons. Wow, that's pretty, I hadn't realized that. He's out to save his hotel empire. He was shocked. You mean, those fucking terrorists build a hotel and pay no taxes and are making millions, and I can't even get a bid in. They won't even take my bid. So that's fucking neat. And then the other thing is, he said, we've left 2,500 Humvees back in Iraq or someplace. There was a movie about 1960, I think, with Peter Sellers called The Mouse That Roared. And my essay on McLuhan's quadrophenia is subtitled The Mouse That Roared Syndrome. I'm referring to that movie. So it's a Hollywood movie, I think, where based on Castro, a kind of Castro guy, he had just come in, who declares war on the United States because he knows the weaponry will be left. You know, they'll eventually leave all the stuff, may destroy half of its citizens, but he gets all this weaponry, he can start being a country with military. So, as McLuhan would say, war is education. Well, you declare war on the United States, they come in, bomb the shit out of you, but they leave 2,500 Humvees, and now you got your military. So, that very McLuhan syndrome, Trump cites. Yeah, imagine me when I have my summit meeting with him. He'll start ranting on it, because he's saying the same stuff for like 25 years. You know, this stuff back there in the 80s, he's saying the same thing. And so he'll go into his robotic rant he'll go, well, 2,500 Humvees, Bob. If I hadn't taken over the White House, we would have lost more Humvees. And I would go, most that roared. You go, what? So that's the most that roared syndrome. What's that? Oh, it's a movie, 1961. Peter Sellers does a cassette, and I explain it. He goes, shit, I never knew that. Man, I'm glad I met you, Bob. You know so fucking much, man. I can use that. That's what's going to happen in the conversation. My obscure trivia will just keep blowing his mind every time he goes on one of his themes. Like, okay, wait, we won't go into any others. We'll save them, because he's listening, and we don't want to ruin the meeting, right? Don, I want to say a few surprises for you. Okay, so now we got to go into this interesting thing of okay, well, there's another email where Roxy goes into the foundation of America, some of the things we learned in Paris, and what's happened to America today. Where did it go? So you sent me another link. The Trump Manipian satire. Oh, Donald Trump's most idiotic moments. Okay, yeah, he makes terrible mistakes. I watched a bit of that. Speech mistakes. We don't need to go through that. Then Der Spiegel. You have a YouTube. What's that one? Making a beat out of a Donald Trump sniff. Oh, okay, yeah. So some guy, his sniff turns into a musical hip-hop thing or digital something. And then Weird Al Yankovic, we played that. Okay, thanks for that. I wouldn't have known it, and I played it. Okay, so where... you're there, right, Roxy? That's an old mute. Yeah, that's an hour ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm trying to find where you explained a little bit more. A comment in Cloud of Glory. You go into Flamel. You can't find the one where you go into the Zappa and the Freemasons. Maybe that's over here. Just check. It's a good little inventory. I want to read it. Bert, Roxy went crazy a few days ago. You know what happened in Germany?
No.
They changed the law, so now you can watch YouTube from all over the world. So Roxy stayed up for like 3 nights in a row, catching up with 10 million YouTubes.
Wow.
But that's a big deal. You get to see a lot of stuff. And, okay.
What about what happened to Paris, where there are riots in Paris now because some refugee camp was burned up, and the refugees came through Paris, and now they're fighting in the streets. So we ruined Paris by being there.
That's finally how they resolved the earthquake threat. They put it into a people riot. Okay, they had to translate synesthetically our fucking shit turd we left there. They had to figure out what to do with it. We must expend it. We must spend it. So they had a riot. Okay.
Yeah, the police were striking.
Okay,
I saw that. The police were on strike as well. They were striking because of that. They saw that the police were complaining they weren't getting enough armament to defend themselves as well.
And this strike just happened?
Maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. I remember seeing news that there was a big police strike where they were marching. Their weapons aren't modern enough to defend themselves.
Right. Listen to this. She tells me the laws have changed. So she goes, I stayed up until 3 a.m. listening to music. Many videos could not be played in Germany until yesterday due to copyright laws. So I looked for some of the music we listened to in the car. And that's what I played today, some of the great stuff that her niece was playing. And it's good stuff. I like Mexican. I like that Juan Garcia guy. He's sort of neat.
Juan Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, Gabriel, yeah. And so then you said this. You said, maybe we should discuss your McLuhan group, the Facebook McLuhan Scholar stuff. Maybe we should discuss your McLuhan group post on Trump on Payday. You are the only one who has an insight of the effects of media on the voters and why it's not about Trump but the Android meme. In honor of the real founders, the secret society of Cincinnatus in Versailles, Saint Germain and all, and in honor of democracy and Frank Zappa, we should discuss the American elections. It would be very interesting to talk about the hidden ground of the foundation of America and its apocalyptic role. Because of the apocalyptic situation, and you wouldn't believe the spelling. I'm reading what is not written. It's unbelievable the fucking way she writes. But I understand it. I explained it on the McLuhan list the other night. I said, she's typing away and nobody knows what the fuck she's typing. And so I intervened and said, where is it?
I got a lot of answers and comments and they agree. So.
They commented on what I wrote?
No, on what I said.
They asked you to send some Snapchat pictures of your private parts, or what? What happened?
No.
Did you hear?
They commented on the Italian futurist.
The Italian what?
Futurist.
Oh yeah, you made a comment on that. And let me just see what I sent something to us. I'm looking for my stuff. Where is it? Jeez.
No, but really the situation, because of the financial crisis and the American elections, is like we're really on the verge of something
Ionic.
big. Yeah, it's like
Yeah. Well, Roxy, you may not have heard it. Ian said to me, and I think I played it a week ago. Bert would remember this. I'm sure he heard it. The situation for me and Carolyn changes drastically after the inauguration. Did you hear that, Bert?
Yes, he says he made some reference to it that he'll talk to you again after the 7th or 8th
Inauguration.
after inauguration or something.
Yeah. There's something big is happening in a few days, and then the effects of that, you'll never see the end of it, Roxy.
yes, I have that feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, good. So Roxy, let's read. No, I don't. Okay. So I wrote, Roxana can speak and write in 5 languages, so we can forgive her polyglot grammar and misspelling. Then I asked her a question. I go, what's it like thinking and typing with all those innate choices or media informing your sentences, Rox?
Wow.
Did you answer that on the forum? Oh, I'll have to go there and see what you're doing. Okay, so let's. Anyways, that's what I was referring to. Back to your messages. So you say. Talk about the Foundation of America and its apocalyptic role. Because of the apocalyptic situation, some think the solution is to go back to gold and monarchy. But the media, the ecstasy of communication, bravo, you actually used that phrase, the ecstasy of communication. You know that's Baudrillard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. But the media, the ecstasy of communication, the amount of trade, etc., would make that solution obsolete. The only solution is a radical change, which is kingdom. I said it's not a revolution, it's a revelation. Viva the revelation. And then you say, it could be interesting to review the founding of America and Trump as part of a bigger plan in our ascension. God save the Bob. How's that for ending, sucking up to me, Bert? How's that for sucking up? My chief of staff says, God save
I have my moments.
Yeah. God save the Bob. Is that talking about saving? Well, it's all fucking a lie. Because you don't, God is bullshit. He ain't going to save me. So you're a fucking liar. Roxy doesn't say God save Roxy. She knows, oh, that ain't true. Roxy's going to say Roxy, but she insults by saying God save the Bob. Well, that's fucking, with bad words. There's no God. There's no Bob to save. What are you up to?
Well,
what are you, a double
Bob
agent?
is dead. God save the bomb.
The bomb is dead, right. Okay, so that's, I think I've read everything now. So we're up to date. So let's begin to talk about it. This new level, I would just say what I always say, the American country is the only country in the world built on the printing press, where people go out to be alone and home to be social. That has been totally destroyed and turned upside down 10 times over the last 50 years, you know. Every president's has to be a whack job. It's just pretty hard to run a country that is most vulnerable to the electronic environment, the most incapable of handling it, even though it makes a big chunk of it. It makes the environment that kills it. So that's my opening statement to the press.
Yes, I was listening to Pierre Giovanovi, and he says it's a battle between the Old Testament and the New Testament, like the Catholics and the Protestants.
Did you say Old Testament versus New Testament? Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said like that.
Yeah, but I don't think that's it. Immediately,
no, because until now he was saying the Catholic culture countries were the ones being attacked, like Italy and Greece and Spain, but actually Greece is Orthodox, but now also the German bank is
the Protestant guys. Yeah, they kaput. San Neutrino. It's kaput. Just what you said there. You said to me the other day that the election's a big distraction. Then Ian said, no, it's very important. And this is where the difference between the form and the content, or the figure and the ground, they merged 50 years ago.
It's amazing that they're not saying anything on major media about the bankruptcy of the Deutsche Bank. They're talking about Trump.
Well, they can't. No, that's the main point about news. They can never tell you. News is supposed to warn the society of something is happening, or you can also say it's also supposed to tell the good news. But they can't do that. The good news depresses too many people. So they are supposed to tell you bad news. But anything that's really serious bad news, like water pollution's gone up, lethal levels, they cannot tell the people. They cannot be the news function because it's overridden by the fact you panic everybody, and that's worse. You can't have anarchy. So the news can never be its role. So they're never going to talk about the Deutsche Bank or this and that. McLuhan was apocalyptic. They're not going to say, news headlines. We find out TV is undermining every value we ever had. This would be, 1955. We have to turn off the TV environment for 6 months. That's the big news story. That never was allowed to be said because everybody would panic and go nuts, and some would say you have a civil war over whether you're not telling me to turn my TV off. So the battle, Jovanovic is wrong. It's not about any chemical body human institutions. The warfare is between the chip body, the TV body, the chemical body, and the astral body, and now the mystery body. That's the warfare. It's technical. And you just take turns pointing out some rearview mirror anthropomorphic chemical body phenomenon. It's immigration. It's bad education. It's drugs. It's the cartels. It's, none of that is real. So Donald Trump is talking in old-fashioned terms. What he's saying is not impressive. Hillary's even worse because she talks about it without flippancy. She takes it seriously and gives you policy wonky fucking long answers as if it's real. Trump sort of just gives cartoon responses to it. But there's nothing happening in this election. But here's the obverse of what I'm saying. Because the figure and ground have merged, because the environment is information, that means the form and content, the medium and the message merge, and what is said is the environment. What is said out of the White House, wherever you call that central point where what is going to be said in the New York Times and in the White House today, the word that makes the market and tells you, hey, we didn't disappear, we didn't get nuked, we didn't get fluorided, we could still live, go about doing your shopping, like George Bush Jr. said. That is the ground. But now there's a new ground, something that goes around the information rulership and tyranny, ION, which is, making apocalyptic effects. Someone told me, they said, Bob, I think Neufeld's been posting up a mania. He's been spending the last 2 weeks following everything with ionic knowledge, and he says, Bob, I know you and Carol are causing all this chaos, and ION's caused a huge identity crisis all across the fucking world. He says, I know that, Bob. Then he goes on about the American identity crisis. So that's the big level, Roxy. Now we can go into the nitpicking little details and go back to George Washington and the Freemasons and what they thought they were building and how it ended up here. What?
Yes, because it's very impressive to see that in Versailles they were planning the American independence and
you understand
everything.
Yeah, we went to the Versailles, and it was in Versailles, and they showed books and the actual secret society that LaRouche wrote about 30 years ago, the Society of Cincinnatus that Ben Franklin was part of, and it showed the scheming of Ben Franklin and the other aristocrats in the Versailles planning the French Revolution.
Really?
That's what you see in
the American independence and everything.
Yeah, they're managing. The Tetra managers are managing the portraits and the personalities of the guys who ran the French Revolution. That was the Versailles,
it
right?
It makes sense what I'm saying, that Saint-Germain is behind all this, the whole country. Yeah.
So, but that was in the Versailles, am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was in the Versailles, right? Okay. There was a picture there, these guys scheming, and I said, that's me. I just pointed at a young guy with blonde hair. That's me. So I was just joking, but I took it up with Ion. I said, was that me? And he goes, no, that was Jean Perrault. And he immediately named some guy, right? And he explained who Jean Perrault is. You would have heard it. You would have heard me ask that in the recordings we played. But you've heard them all. But it wasn't me. So it remains a joke. If it was me, then we'd have a different opinion. But cancel my suggestion that it was me. But it was those kind of people that they were showing in the painting. Like, who's ever heard of John Portal? John Portal. That's to tell you something. John Portal. He managed a fucking toll booth at the interacting world economy, parallel world economy. He ran the toll booth. John Portal. Obviously a fake name. Yeah, go ahead, Roxy.
Yes, and it's very interesting how the fall of the old monarchies linked to America, because of the Louisiana Purchase, they had this company, and everybody, even the poorest people, had actions. Everybody was involved, not only...
You said actions. What does that mean? You mean shares?
Shares of the company, yeah.
Right.
And when somebody wanted their money back, they could not pay it back, and so everybody started asking for their money, and because the company went bankrupt. That's why everybody went into revolting against the monarchy, because of that company bankruptcy. And it was a time where...
What year is that? When's the bankruptcy?
That's before the French Revolution. That's actually one of the main causes.
Okay. So 1760 or something. Neufeld is typing away there. Maybe we should bring Neufeld in. We have to be careful. He could take over, but...
and so that's the beginning of the fiat currency. And now we're in the same situation where the savings for the retirement and everything is in bankruptcy, and the savings of people are going to be taken to save the system, but Ion said it's not possible.
Okay, so let's hold it there. That's got a lot of stuff there. How can, if it's a media war, then it was a battle 300 years ago, almost 300 years ago, 1750, this bubble that burst, and then the people lost their money. So you're in a print society run by money. We're not in a print society, but you're saying that the money issue is what gets the people. So money is the content. Always, it's the real ground. It's the only thing that gets people pissed off when they lose all their investments. And there's something wrong about that, because unless money is God, it holds society together. It's been holding society together for 300 years, and it's the only thing that makes the people get mad. But they've lost everything else. They've lost everything else in their culture. There's nothing like, grandmothers that they don't recognize anything today. They don't even know where they went. Did we go to the moon? So all these other things have been destroyed, but not money or fiat money. And why is that still a thing? Because money props up private identity and property and individualism, and that is what came in 300 years ago, and has disappeared in many ways, but people still hold on to it. That's why I say the people aren't complaining. Some subplot in the Android meme is complaining, not people. They're hopeless. They're not reacting. It's the Android meme and its media parts, its quadrants. It's the 19th century within the Android meme complaining about the collapse of money or losing their savings. That's the avant-garde way to look at it. But Roxana, let me finish. That's the avant-garde way to look at it. But the practical way, the people that Bert works with would say, no, it's always money, it's only money. I think that view, it's hard to defeat that view, but there's something wrong. People got to realize it's not about money.
Yeah.
They're even saying they're going to make a guaranteed income. That was a big thing in the 60s. Nobody took it seriously. And then we talked about it with Ion, and it's like another version of the welfare state, that everybody's going to be guaranteed a certain stipend, no matter what. Which is, in other words, realizing that money is a medium. You can't get rid of it. All that everybody thought for 300 years money was for is not. It's just a ticket to stay in the society, and we will give everybody the basic ticket, and meanwhile you'll go forth and make wealth or take drugs or whatever you're going to do. So there's a bad explanation for money here, leading to the confusion. And that's what I object to. Hillary and them don't admit that. Don't make that the discussion. You might get it in a few university classes by a few professors, but that's all. The thing is, what is money for? And if Paulson, in the Too Big to Fail, when in September 2008, Paulson couldn't hold it together anymore, he had to go communist. They had to have the government put out the HARP thing. So here he is. He's a guy who fought all his years on Wall Street as a right-wing capitalist, whatever he claimed he was, and he gets to run the Treasury, and eventually says, oh, sorry, my thinking for the last 40 years has been erroneous. I have to become a communist. We're going to have to let go, stop pretending we're independent, corporate, brilliant individual entrepreneurs, and let the government pay us all. That's what they admitted in 2008, 2009. Yeah. But the power of your genetic mimic history, that you came out, you're educated in an individualist society as the print society is, and you grew up in suburbs with linear roads and everybody in their own little place. It's not like Africa where nobody knows whose father or mother is. That's more communal. We stick to that archetype of the individual, even though it has nothing to do with actually what's going on. All right. I don't want to go on.
When Ion talks about the Nesara and how Saint Germain gave the American debt to the people of China, it's like, everybody can blame the Chinese for taking over, and
there are no fucking Chinese. There's no words. You see that story that came out the other day? The richest man in China just bought a huge chunk of Hollywood.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, what did he buy? A studio or something? No. Yeah, cinema. They won't let him.
Cinema.
Yeah. The cultural wall, the Chinese are Eastern and we're Western. They're communal, we're not. We cannot let them buy things and take over our culture. So because we're different from them, we think culturally, and we are different, meme-wise. So we can't let him take over any one company. So his strategy was, well, I'll just buy a bit of all of them and see where that goes. But he has. Now, this is what McLuhan predicted about China. Because they were going to become industrial, in the 60s, they would develop explosive, aggressive, capitalistic energies. And that's what they do. There's nothing you can do with money other than to spread it and take over and buy things. There's nothing else to do with it. So the Chinese are forced like robots to go around buying up the world, even though owning the world now is obsolete. But they're acting out this new dynamic of being capitalist and going around buying things. But we've got cultural walls because we can't let this China, even though Ian says they have taken over secretly, but culturally they can't come in and be obvious buying up everything. And we've all watching Chinese movies from there. Or if they did buy it, they probably wouldn't have Chinese movies. They just carry on with American movies. So it doesn't matter who fucking owns the studios. The movie dictates what kind of movies are going to be said to Americans or TV shows. You see, it's all automatic. The whole fucking side. Yeah. That's what we mean by Android meme. I'll let you guys talk. I said
that's a mind-blowing
in other words, that's the thing. How can you solve a situation when you don't have this understanding of what's really going on? That's the problem with the government or with the
all the whole society. It's T.S. Eliot. So you go back to old poetry. He said, people cannot take too much reality. They can't take the definition of what's really going on, or they think they can't. And then you say, oh, their minds are fucked up. So then you go on a program to improve their minds or have them get rid of their minds. And you try that. But the Android meme carries on anyways, running itself, and people don't know how to think about it. And every attempt to think about it doesn't work. The first thing is to get this is why Ian says, do not use your mind. It's not a thinking man's game. That may be a truism through all of human culture, but is especially true today. Technically, you can't think around the situation, but you get millions of people having jobs telling other people how to think or what they think. They're consultants, they're corporate information exchanges, people reading the news. Anybody who's saying anything in any medium is not getting to the point. We have moved into silence. Another way of saying it is everything's disappeared, and there's no communication to you humans possible. Now, if everybody quietly sort of started to look at that, yeah. But it's like Bert. He's been listening to my stuff for a couple of years, and he goes, yeah, Bob's right. And every week he goes, Bob, you're fucking right. I've been watching. I'm at work, and they don't know what I'm thinking about them. But I'm done. I think Bob's right. We're just robots here. We get millions of people doing that secretly.
It is.
Watching them observing. Yeah.
Commuting is like
weird. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Bert.
I was thinking how...
Oh, wait, is there some other guy there?
For me last week.
Just a minute, Bert. Is Lauren there?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
I want to hear what Bert has to say.
Okay.
First.
Yeah, go ahead, Bert. Light bulb. Another light bulb. Bert has a light bulb every 2 weeks at least.
No, it's just because Bob is right. I mean, it's like for me now, I commute. I use public transportation. I've used public transportation for 12 years. And for me now, it's like riding or experiencing Finnegan's Wake. There's so much going on that most people aren't fucking aware of. You listen to conversations. You look at people looking at iPods. You look at people reading a newspaper. It's so much going, and then it's like a scene from Finnegan's Wake for me every day when I'm on public transportation. And then I go to work, and you hear people talking, and you can read where their references are what you talk. It's crazy. This is the only place where you can have sanity in Payday. This is the only place sanity is.
Right, where everything's admitted.
Yes.
Everything's admitted. You're on the edge of Ben Watson's nightmare vision. Back in the early 80s, Ben Watson wrote the book on Zappa. He all of a sudden he was on the streets and he was looking, and everybody turned into that video by Moby. He was looked at it where everybody's looking at their cell phone and they're just
Yeah.
This one guy screaming in the middle singing, and then they end up lemmings going over the thing. So that kind of vision he saw in the early 80s. And he went nuts, temporarily went nuts. And that was that. He's written about it. Well, after I was there in 2008, he went downtown a week later, and the vision came back. The nightmare, the horror of everybody is a robot in London, unaware of what's going on, and just very mechanical, and it freaked him out, and he got scared, and he got shocked, and he had to calm down. Then we started doing our series, and halfway through it, he had to go to the hospital. His mind broke, and he had to go on medication.
Wow.
He won't do the alternative route. He likes the medication. It works for him, and either he's lazy and he won't do what Karen would suggest, or he can't, or he doesn't believe in it. But anyways, he cracked up. I'm saying, Bert, you're on the edge of that. Or you're not, because you got the drops, and you won't. But if you didn't have the drops, you'd suddenly freak out. You can't take
I find it funny. It's so funny. It's really funny, because it's like, that's what it flipped me from reading Don Thiel. The virtual reality has been it's something you said 2 or 3 weeks ago, Bob, that was mind-blowing. You was talking about, someone brought up about artificial intelligence. You said, we've been on artificial intelligence for 50 years. Music has been, the whole electrical music's been programmed by artificial intelligence. I was like, damn! We are living in a virtual reality environment with electricity, and everyone's using the old mediums and this overlay with electricity. It's like a massive comedy show. It's just, I find it funny.
Actually, since men learn how to write, that was virtual reality already.
Yeah.
A student of Don Thiel did a book based on that. Forget his name. It's called Memory Trade, and he was a professor in Australia. But he got turned on to Thiel in the 90s, and out of that he said, oh, wait a minute. The alphabet was the first virtual reality, the first abstraction, the first weird new effect that everybody could get lost in. But it's a more dramatic virtual reality with the telegraph. So McLuhan is laying out the history of virtual reality. You might as well call it the history of media. Speech is a distraction or a virtual reality. It takes you someplace.
We were commenting on this Nicolas Flamel book. There is a series of books about the character Nicolas Flamel, but it's fiction. But between all this fiction, there's a lot of facts, like you will find in the Wikipedia, real historical information about many characters, about many places, about many things. So there is this mix of fiction and true facts that are sort of erasing the borders between what is real and what is not real.
Well, that happened with speech. Roxy, that happened with speech. Imagine sitting around the early humans, they got ESP, and they can take everything in. They don't even know when they're dead. It's no difference. All of a sudden, somebody starts saying something and insisting, and the other guy listen to them. But then, why should I listen to your fucking mouth babblings? It's a nice composition, nice sounds, but I'm going to Mars. Frig this. So the distraction begins with the first communication, the meaningful communication.
Because of Google and Wikipedia, like the amount of information that is being put on books, it's really like a lot. It's amazing.
No, it's post-human. It's not even calculable by humans. McLuhan used to talk about that in the 60s, about 50,000 titles published every day back in the 50s and 60s, and he'd say, well, who's got time to read them all? Who's it for?
Yes, but the thing is that you get a new book, and in that book you have the information of an encyclopedia. All the information that is interlaced with the story you're reading, which is actually facts.
You mean today?
But listen to this, it makes sense in the sense that they call this world, right, augmented reality. When technology interacts with reality, by calling it augmented, it's saying that reality is heightened in value with the introduction of technology. And so it's making our experience and our existence more valuable than it was before.
Yeah, and like they can't define what reality is. Is reality death and taxes? Because, as Ein says, nobody can die now. You can take anybody, if they got the time, put him on the ICU, and he's there forever. He might, hardly know that he's alive, but you can be put, and your body can be preserved. So there's no death. So we've augmented death.
Is it heightened?
It's a stupid term. Yeah, is it heightened? Well, the ratios are... The old wisdom was that the ratios were you go up here, you go down over there. You play up your acoustic, you play down the visual. So there's always this bouncing and homeostasis and balancing and juggling between the senses. You extrapolate that into social.
Augmented virtuality is an idea too, right? And that's something people do, which is saying that the virtual experience is heightened by introducing reality into the virtual to create a better virtual, and then virtual creates a better reality.
Yeah, what's the difference?
And so,
that freaked Roxy out. Roxy went through a identity crisis about a month ago when she read that article. Right, Roxy? She started posting manicky, holy shit, they're augmenting virtual reality.
No, there was a better article. It was about people getting high and then going into virtual reality. So it's like a augmented, amplified reality.
Yeah, augmented unreality.
Yeah, those cubes where you can draw in space around you wearing the goggles, and you're in this non-existent space and you draw 3D shapes around you, but none of it really exists. You're there and you're moving in space. It's quite cool, but it's seemingly useless.
Yes, but the human senses... No, it's not. The human senses desire new data, new experience. That's what motivates it. It's been... Talking was useless, 10 billion years ago, but people enjoyed it. That's what we do. We use our senses for no apparent reason, or not mental concepts. You don't need the concepts to live.
Yeah. One of the correlations I was noticing between what you were talking about in terms of America and the United States, this part of this culture, creating all of this technology, and then the technology destroying what it is, what we were, what we are, our reality, and so it's a correlation to yeast. I see, in that yeast takes sugar and turns it into alcohol, doesn't think about it until it creates so much alcohol that the yeast dies.
Yeah, what do you say to that, Carol?
And is there conscious thought on the part of the yeast, or what are they doing? Is it just like what we're doing, in a smaller scale?
We're going to take over.
These are tough questions, Lauren. They're not for our group. We're more the surface chatter. We like the word media. We're not going to talk about yeast.
I am.
Understanding Yeast by Lauren Reitzenstein.
But the purpose of
amplify your yeast
is not over. It's not over, because the yeast you can stir back up into the wine to bring different body and augment the texture and experience of the wine that the yeast created on its way to becoming dead. So there's a memory and a soul of the yeast in the wine.
Do you have yeast problems, Lauren? How come you're an expert on this?
I work in wine.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, somebody and I just gave up wine because it was causing all the yeast problems, on their flesh.
Oh, I can feel the yeast problems in my mind. I'm in a haze living in this valley. It's brutal. But yeah.
You don't like the rural environment?
No, it's terrible, but it's good for what I need to do right now.
Right, but is it terrible because all you got is 7-Elevens and crummy little binky stores and
we don't have 7-Elevens. That's big time. That's big town stuff.
No. You have a little old general store with an old guy sitting on a barrel, eh?
I
and you got a
live in
couple of
town
chocolate
with
bars.
less than 200 people in it.
Wow.
And
You're on a commune.
I'm in like a commune underneath the oligarchy of ownership. And then everybody else in the valley is here to serve the owners, and then to serve the other owners that come and visit the valley when they want to break from owning things. So, yeah, that's how
owning. Yeah, but see it as a battle of media. When you say, you have your old reality, then you got to confront new reality. Old reality is the media that you've been using, that you're used to. An old standard shift car, an AM radio. Those are your reality. That's your belief system. And all of a sudden the digital world comes in, and that's a new reality. But it's better to say new media or new clothing. You're wearing new clothes.
Yeah?
You ever try? Do you like getting new clothes, new shoes?
Yes.
Isn't it a drag? You got to fit the fucking in. You got to get used to them. They hurt the feet for a week or something.
No, I love new clothes. Anything new I can get, I will take. I'm all about it. I get bored with anything I have very easily.
Well, I guess shoes would be the only thing that a shirt doesn't hurt you, a jacket doesn't hurt you, but shoes hurt you. You like getting shoes? You don't have crimson for a day or two?
I love it all.
Well, you're lucky.
I like the pain of new and the pain of adjustment. And
you admit you get pain. There is pain, but you like it.
It's not necessarily like, yeah, for sure, because it's all part of the process. I'm into the experience of the entire process.
Well, I'm notorious for not handling 1/2 an inch of pain, so I don't get into the process. It hurts too much for me. I just don't change. I wear the same fucking clothes for 30 years. I'm not putting any new shoes on. I'm not going to go through 48 hours of sore feet. No way.
I suppose you compensate for that in other ways in your life.
Yeah, I get pain in other ways, like inventing ion. So that's a good example, though. That's the ratios. You could have the different senses or different modalities, and they conflict and adjust each other. A simple version of that is that you have contrast in your life. You can't have experience, and it can't be one dimension. It has to have the other contrary dimension, so you know that you had the first initial simple dimension. That'd be a simple way of talking about the way McLuhan talks about the interplay of senses.
All right. Continue.
Okay, so I suggest that we go to the Bible text called More Than Human, which is Zappa's favorite book. Well, at some point he said it was. It's a science fiction thing by Theodore Sturgeon. And look at the title, More Than Human. We're amplifying ourselves. We don't want to be where we are. We want to expand our clothing. So we want to become more than we are. So more than human is the archetypal drive motivating all technological evolution.
Augmenting humanity.
Yeah, more than human is augmenting humanity. So it's interesting that Sturgeon takes that archetype. I don't know if he meant it that way, but we can. More than human, that's the eternal drive. More than today. What does Ian say? Even Ian had to give up. His big law is, very happy where I am, but ready for more, demanding more,
Who's that Israeli historian who just wrote that book, like Homo Deus? About
I don't know it. Israeli historian?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's like, he wrote the really famous one about, the last one about our prehistoric nature and the similarities between our prehistoric existences. And now he's writing a book about how, well, he just wrote the book and it's published in like a bunch of languages, about how now with technology and genetic engineering, all these kinds of stuff like that, we are going to create ourselves into God's image. And there's going to be...
That's not Howard Bloom.
No, not Howard Bloom. Let me find out.
Is it the Ray Kurzweil?
Nope. He has a very obviously Israeli name.
Oh, okay.
It's another podcast. I listen to.
Okay, while you're looking for that, let me explain.
Yeah.
So I got the book More Than Human. We used to have a copy, and Roxy, you got to go by 9:30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got 40 minutes. So let's see if we can get a good chunk of this. So Carol read the book in around 1970. I thought it was pretty good, and she might have read it because Zappa recommended it.
So it's more than 40 minutes.
What time do you have to go?
At 9:30, but it's 7:50. That's
right. You're on a different. You've gone into the night fallback. Yeah, your clock's changed. Well, that's great. So yeah, you're usually on the same time as me. It's 10 to 9, but it's 10 to 8. Okay, good. You got less time because this is going to be interesting. So I never read the book, but I read the wiki summary a few months ago. So last night I said, okay, we're going to read the book and talk about it. So I started reading it. And it was so fucking painful to read it and to read it correctly out loud, and it was too detailed.
Why were you reading it out loud?
Because I was practicing reading it out loud. Because I was going to read it for the show. I thought I was going to read the book.
I've never seen you read out loud before.
No, I did it to Wyndham Lewis's book.
No, but in a room with nobody listening. No audience.
I've never done that. That's right. It was the first time I ever did it by myself alone.
Yeah. Who's Bob talking to?
Yeah, Carol comes in. What the fuck? Who are you talking to? Well, I'm just reading a book to myself. I mean, I want to do a reasonable job of reading, not stumbling around. So it was very painful. It's hard to read and follow what's going on at the same time. Right. You have to go slower, but I'm reading along, getting it sort of. But I said, after a while, after a few pages, I can't sit. No, Bert and them are going to sit here and listen to me read this shit for half an hour. Who the hell's going to listen?
No,
listen to music
for 10 hours.
10 hours? And I said, no, this ain't going to work, but I wanted to do it. So we came up with this solution. We'll read the... also, the thing that I read was very interesting. And I may read the first couple pages later, just to show you. It's very interesting how they describe the main character at the beginning. He's an idiot. And the chapter part one's called The Fabulous Idiot. So this weird guy who sort of lives in the forest, very disconnected from any human communication, human contact. What we'll do is I'll read you the plot summary, and then since Carol has read the book, as we read it, she'll remember it, and she'll fill in some of the details about what we need to know. And then maybe occasionally we'll find a section to read. But I want to show that America was built on the more than human principle. That's like taking a specific case. All humanity is built on more than human. But America was especially in political power structures based on humans can be what they could be, right? They never had that in any culture before that. Maybe they wouldn't have those kind of goals because they weren't literate. But it's a major literate goal to improve yourself or think you're going somewheres and you can be better. So America's built on the more than human. Now Donald Trump is running on, I'm going to make it better for everybody. All Americans are going to be able to become more than Bob or more than Hillary, more than human. There's the same dream he's offering. So,
yeah, which is kind of weird because we all think we're human, and it's not until we sort of look around and someone points it out that we've been living in a prison, in a cardboard box, and other people are manipulating us like puppets.
Well, isn't that in the world of Mortar? And nobody's manipulating you in the general functions of your organs. You're still breathing, you're still looking, you may not like what you're looking at, but you're still using your senses. That part of humanity never stops.
Well, on the superficial level, but you're absolutely being manipulated on the physical level by the medical establishment. You get anything wrong with you, and you go to the doctor, and And you can't even argue with them anymore. They know better than you about your body.
That's social stuff.
Well, but that's day to day.
The guru part of yourself, the God part, is the guy who stays home and doesn't go to the doctor, gets old and gets sick and dies. But he says, I'm not wasting my time with the social tyranny of medicine. I'll stay home and just drink beer and watch TV. So people keep their sensory mechanism going, and it's different proportions of how much they acknowledge what society is saying should be done.
But it's a very small percentage of people who make the decision to ignore doctors and just do everything on their own. Most people, they may say that, give lip service to it, but then, they get some excruciating pain and they run to the doctor.
There's something wrong with your argument. And we've heard that from humans for thousands of years, complaining about the boss. And you're complaining about the boss. And now
absolutely.
Yeah, well...
Well, you can't gloss over and give me a generalization then about, whatever la-di-da you said.
Why can't I? Why can't I?
Because I'll say the opposite.
Oh, okay. You're a top-down person, I'm bottom-up. I celebrate the freedom...
I'm on top.
I celebrate the freedoms that have been given us. You celebrate the hell that have been given us.
Well, we dance back and forth, speaking from the godlike perspective or the little man perspective.
Yes, we.
So we kind of have to define our terms every once in a while.
Ian says there's two conversations. Is that the factor here? We got two conversations always.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you guys want to say before we go into this? Anything else? More than human? You like that title? Are you interested in the story?
Yeah.
The people.
I sent you the link to Yuval Harari is the name of the historian.
Oh, okay. I never heard of him.
He wrote the book *Sapiens*, talking about us in our prehistoric sense, and now he's writing *Homo Deus*, which is his forecast for an apocalyptic future of godlike creations on the part of humans and technology and genetics and stuff. So I sent you the Guardian's article about it on the Bob does it, so
right.
Or whatever it is.
I see it. I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, *Homo Deus*, A Brief History of Tomorrow. It says the epic, while widely celebrated *Sapiens* gets the sequel. That's a novel he did before. It gets the sequel it demanded. Now, here's what it says. A breathless, compulsive inquiry into humanity's apocalyptic, tech-driven future. Every major book is that. Whatever technology, that Virgil the poet was writing about in Rome, worrying about whatever new technologies the Roman soldiers had, that was apocalyptic for the society. It was going to change it, like the stir-up is. So it's always been an apocalyptic, tech-driven future. So what's he going to say that'd be different? Has he got more scientific?
He's saying that there's going to be a destruction. There's going to be, basically they create a genetic class system where there will be those that are genetically superior and then those that are genetically inferior to work for those that are genetically superior. So those with money and those that can afford it will turn themselves into gods and keep everybody who can't afford it down in subpar mental ability, physical ability, only to do their job as best as they can, starve them of their freedom, their independence, their intellectual ability, all of these kinds of stuff like that. And so they're going to genetically enforce a class oligarchy and
right.
The oligarchy.
I think that's what Brave New World's about. Brave New World is about a genetically organized caste system, or the people.
There you go.
Suppress. Right. Okay. So now the image of a genetically created people is the image of the chemical body being minor, so it can be programmed, plasticized, made into a robot. And yet that scenario is nowhere near the devastation caused by our present multi-body situation, which is so devastating you can't even describe it other than saying, well, everything's disappeared, we're a planet of the dead, and don't tell me that anybody's alive. And then Carol sees that is medicine. The apocalypse of these young people getting sick so early. So his scenario is riddled with cliches, and we always have the Trump card. The Trump card. Is that what it's called? The Trump card?
Trump card.
Trump was the Trump for American democracy. He was the Trump card.
Let the trumpets blow.
He's a Trump card. The Bible missed that. They thought he was a musical instrument. They missed the card bit. The prophets missed it. But now I've talked myself into a new insight and forgot what I was going to say. What the hell was I going to say about Trump? The Trump card. Oh, the Trump card is Ion. Okay, so I've thought of this for many times through these Ion years that Alex Jones comes on and says, he's been saying for a long time, I heard him say it once, so I assume he's been saying it, that the elite have cures for cancer and all these things. And they keep it to the elite, whoever these rich elite are. And as we unfolded, and we were saying we would give you an answer to cancer, Coldplay, we are a new elite offering stuff to people who can afford it, and then they become better than everybody else, or happier, or more complete. So we're creating the caste society that this guy is talking about, with a post-genetic model, an ionic material model of chromosome 14 stuff. So anybody who come on here and accuse us of creating a new caste system. So Trump comes in, and he's from the elite, and he's going to help the little people.
Is he?
Yeah, I'm interested in your responses. Is he? Yeah, that's right. Is he? Can he? How can he? Yeah, I like watching that footage of him talking through the decades. He's, like Roxy said, rational, interesting guy, has a normal piss-off. Now, it's not significant if somebody's pissed off and thinks our society needs surgery. That happened to every human being in the Western society the last 50 years because the media upset everybody's identity. So nobody felt comfortable with where society was going. So it's not unique what he was saying. What's unique is he actually got to a position to do it.
Yes, and Zappa did the same. Like, they both think they have to become president for personal reasons. Like, Zappa wanted more.
That's right.
Liberty, less censorship.
Right.
Liberty
he wanted to be able to say anything he wanted to on his albums.
Yeah, make
and
longer, complex compositions. Be played on air.
Yeah, radio airtime. Make Frank great again is what his agenda was. More radio airplay for me, said Frank. He wanted programmers to allow his stuff, his 10-minute solos, to be heard.
So they're like an extreme example of the Here Comes Everybody. Like, they not only creating, but they want to transform the whole environment, the outer kingdom.
Right. Which is what Ion says his 20th century art is pharaonic, Egyptian. It programs the whole environment, the whole world. So many people are in a position to do that. Even if you just work for a TV station, you're programming people. Dr. Dean has her hand up.
You're mentioning Trump and the Bible, and I finally looked it up, Trump in the Bible. Some rabbi, this is published 2 days ago, Rabbi sees Donald Trump ascendancy in Bible codes. So
that book, Bible Codes.
But that's not it.
Oh, you mean just in Bible?
Yeah,
in Bible.
So you can look up Rabbi sees Donald Trump.
And what's he say?
In Bible Codes. We don't need to go into it. He's got a 3-minute video, but I don't think he picked up about the Trump.
Trump card?
Of the Trump it. But I mean it's funny. You can find anything in anything.
But he's serious.
Yes.
What part of the Bible is he quoting? Find that out. Like, is it Bob 3:4 or Connie 6:2? You just heard something from the Bob. That's another Bob came and gave you the future there, Bert. There's a little bit of future that happened there.
Revelation.
Bob 3:2. Yeah. Bobolation 22:4.
We're talking about
the
the third testament.
Yeah, the third Bob. We're talking about the third Bob.
And he's in the mold of Cyrus the Great of Persia. Glazerson is the guy's name.
So Trump is like Cyrus?
That's what he's saying.
Okay.
And he thinks, Cyrus helped Israel. I guess he thinks Trump will help Israel, so there's more personal gain and satisfaction.
For the rabbi, he's still in business.
Yeah. And he's got Bible quotes from Deuteronomy pointed to the word Donald, spelled in Hebrew letters, next to the word Nasi, which is Hebrew for president.
Wow, President Donald. There it is, right there.
So little bits and pieces he put together.
And it's a pun on Nazi. Yeah, it's a pun on Nazi, too. You know, everybody calls him a Nazi, so that's the Nazi pun.
Nazi.
Nazi President Donald, the Don. And then there's a few others you're too bored to go into.
Yeah.
It's like Phineas Wake. Okay, so I want to see what More Than Human, synchronistically, zonarchically, how much it reflects Iondom and Zappa and what Zappa projected in it. How could this content, this story, fit our pre-programmed script here?
Okay, so go to your Wikipedia.
Okay, people, I'm getting up off the couch and getting back to the computer.
A novel written in 1953.
Well, that's when it's published, and that is a key year. Many, many things happened in 53. J.R. Bob Dobbs got his vision in the Church of the Subgenius book in 1953, because that's the year Stang was born, so he put his own birthday into it. All right? So, Stalin went down.
All right.
Let's see, what's his name? The Shah of Iran got put in 53, I'm pretty sure. They were starting to get out of the doldrums of post-World War II. And American culture is starting to rev up. You're going to have Bill Haley and the Comets in a year or so. You know what I mean? The good music's going to come in. The music that Roxy grew up on. Or denied she grew up on, and tried to grow up on another music. Tried to grow up on electronic music. That was, I played a lot of, because you got on the YouTube now and can see all the stuff, you sent me these great songs, so I'm going through them. They're pretty neat. And for the record, you have to think, the music you hear, you probably didn't hear it yet, the first hour. That's a lot of it is what we're listening to driving along the highway in the suburbs and outskirts of Paris. That's what the soundtrack was in the car. And I guess when Roxy puts together the footage of us in the car, you'll hear it, right, Roxy? We'll hear the music in the camera.
Yes, I had to correct some things of the older videos. I already changed the 17 to the 4.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Yeah, that I haven't...
Oh, yeah, correct that. Yeah, good. October 17th. You make it October 4th, yes. Good. That's the only mistake I know.
I still have to correct the other video, and then I can start, because otherwise I won't do it.
Okay, so I'm walking over to the table where the computer is. I'm sitting down, looking at the Wikipedia.
Cover the paperback.
What about the paperback?
The hand. The cover for this.
Yeah, the cover.
More Than Human, the cover is pretty interesting with the hand.
Right. That's the original cover in 1953. So now you notice Zappa, he has a hand like that in a lot of his album covers. So that's Zappa referring to that. There's what we call his conceptual continuity. And it's got a face in the hand. And that's like the energy that Reiki people claim they get, right? Healers get energy coming out of their hand. So you've got the hand, which is a tactile organ, and then you have this electrified something, discarnate entity in the hand. So it's actually showing the extension, the final extension of media is that a robot shows up and looks exactly like you. It all came from the original tool making of the hand, the tactile hand. So there's an iconic meaning to that picture. If you're smart like me, you can project it, right? You can make up shit on anything you see right there. Just make up the story. That's what ascended people are like.
Okay, go, Bob.
So, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. The plot introduction. The novel concerns the coming together of 6 extraordinary people with strange powers. So that's hexatic, right? Hexatic, the 6.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't it 5? Why isn't it 7? Well, it's good to be 6 in Dobbstown terms. And they have strange powers who are able to blesh. And that's a word that's made up, blend and mesh. So a portmanteau of blend and mesh. They're able to blend and mesh or blesh their abilities together. In this way, they are able to act as one organism. Now that would be Zappa's dream for making a band, right?
Yeah.
It's a musical agenda there. Or a theatrical agenda. Have these people be able to really work together well and almost be a one organism. And it says, they progress toward a mature Gestalt consciousness called the Homo Gestalt, the next step in the human evolution. So Gestalt, in this 1969 article where he talks about more than human, they ask him certain words, like, what's this word? Free association. So they say the word Gestalt to him. They might have known that it was in More Than Human because the interviewer maybe read the book on Zappa's recommendation, so he'd be prepared for the interview. So Gestalt is defined by Zappa as something big. Something big. So I don't know if that fits the novel here. So there it is. 6 people are going to get their act together and toward, well, they progress. Doesn't say they get there. So there's the evolution of a more than human archetype, right? We're here and we're going somewhere. We're on our way. We're going to get to a better situation.
I'm just looking up Gestalt to see when that was created. They say support from cybernetics and neurology in the 1940s and 50s. I'm wondering if Sturgeon was looking at Gestalt, psychology and therapy.
Yeah, he would have. That was the term around then.
Right.
There's a guy named Kohler. I think he's mentioned on the first page of Fatty Commune with Bob Dobbs in a LaRouche quote. LaRouche liked this Gestalt guy. He was the first. He was I don't know if he was a psychologist, but the way we used it, like Fritz Perls, those guys at Esalen created Gestalt therapy. That's a different use of the word Gestalt.
This is Wolfgang Kohler?
Yeah. So he's the guy who coined, what do they say about him?
January 1887, June 1967, German psychologist and phenomenologist, contributed to the creation of Gestalt psychology. During the Nazi regime in Germany, he protested against the dismissal of Jewish professors, blah, blah, blah.
Was he Jewish himself?
Kohler doesn't say. He left the country for the United States in 1935, so he got out of there. His family was ethnic German. So, there.
Ethnic German. It doesn't say born to a Jewish mother or something in the birthday?
No, it looks like he was not Jewish.
Yeah. So the definition they say for German Gestalt is shape, figure, form. That's basic. That's like saying medium. Gestalt means a basic shape, a figure, a form. So it's another word for medium.
Okay.
Medium is shape, figure, form. So that's pretty interesting. This is about a mature Gestalt consciousness. The Homo Gestalt. So all homos or humans are Gestalt. They're all making and are a form. So it's a non-entity word.
So he's implying that you need 6 of them to make a good Gestalt.
Right.
One human is not enough.
So he says they are able to blesh their abilities. Yes. So they're not trying to progress. They're not failing. They are able to act as one organism. Then what are they going to do in relation to the rest of the world, the other people? That's probably the drama, right? Okay. So the plot summary. The first part of the novel, called The Fabulous Idiot, narrates the birth of the Gestalt. So at this point, we don't know what Gestalt is. No. It's the birth of the next stage in evolution, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Now, narrates the birth of a Gestalt. That is March 18th, 2009. That's Ion Coming Forth. Taking about a year for us to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody with me? Let me check to see if everybody's still here. So it's an ionic beginning. And the title, The Fabulous Idiot, I am called that constantly by Ion. So there's a heavy spot. You don't hear Carolyn being called the Fabulous Idiot. Only me, right? And the way Ion describes me, now look what his name is. His name is Lone, L-O-N-E. There's nobody more alone than me.
No.
Right? I don't mean it's unhappy alone, but fuck, who lives as alone? I walk by myself to the beach, hardly talk to anybody, swim and come home, and then let's look at emails sent by strangers to me. That's a lonely life, I tell you.
But what's interesting, too, is Lone never had a name until he was finally kind of urged to give himself a name. So he was nameless for 25 years.
And what did we call ourselves 40, 50 years ago? Unknowns Anonymous. That was our secret club, being called Unknowns Anonymous. Talk about being no name, no nothing. And are you telling me what you remember, or you're reading ahead?
I read, I got a Kindle of the book and started reading it this morning.
Yeah, but this whole thing about he didn't get a name in that, how do you know that?
This morning.
Oh, you read it in the Kindle. Okay. Are you remembering the story from 1970 when you read it?
Yeah,
it's coming back?
Yeah, it all comes back.
Okay, so...
Great writing, too.
But as we know what Ian says about me, look at this. In the beginning, we are introduced to the world of Lone, referred to as the Idiot, a 25-year-old male with a telepathic ability who lives on the street. That is what many people think I was, if you listen to the church.
Or you would have been without me.
No, the church is a subject.
Roxana knows that. She experienced you.
What do you mean? She didn't find me dumb.
Without me. Her sister, the first thing she said was...
Oh, yeah, that's right. I thought you meant when I was in Berlin. You mean in our trip. Look, I've already forgotten about the trip. So that's right. The fucking sister said...
You're very lucky that you have Caroline to take care of you.
Yeah, look at that, Bert. Another insulting fucking sentence after being with me for 5 days. 5 fucking days was her character assessment.
No, she got that within the first 24 hours.
Well, from what? I never showed any incompetence. I didn't do anything. But
Carolyn, do we eat asparagus?
I didn't do that. I didn't ask that.
Metaphor. That was a metaphor.
Maybe it was when we went to the restaurant. That's right. I would sit there and let Carol order my food for me. I didn't know what the menu meant.
He would ask, and I've said this, he'd ask a waiter to help him get the ketchup out of the ketchup box.
We did that.
Okay, so keep going.
I experienced that.
Oh, that's right. Bert experienced the idiot. And you knew I was an idiot. You were shocked by the time you went home. That guy is a fucking incompetent. As a matter of fact, that guy, Stephen... Oh, well, I fooled you. But the Stephen Slogger, he came over here a year or two ago, and by the end of his time with me, he said, shit, you're no different than me. You don't know anything either. That was his assessment of me after spending a few hours. I failed. The charisma died. He experienced me being, stupid or something. Don't know what it was, but... Okay. In the beginning, we are introduced to the world of Lone, referred to as the Idiot, a 25-year-old male with a telepathic ability who lives on the street. Now, in 1922, so that's 1947, when I was 25. Now, that was a key year. That's when the National Security Act came in. They began the intelligence agencies, the caste-like society where you could be a CIA agent and lie to the people. So there's your caste society. And in retrospect, I had telepathic ability, but couldn't say that it was obvious back then. All right? So this begins, now dig this, Bert, it begins in 1947. That's the date my chart begins, Bert. Now dig that. 1947.
Dig that.
I think I heard Roxy faint. Roxy fainted. No, really. It's 1840 to 1900 is the first quadrant. And then that's replayed in the Android meme by LaRouche. And his years are 1947 to 57. peaking in 1960. We make him generally in normal history, he's around 1960, but he represents 47 to 57. McLuhan is 57 to 67. Peaking or mainstream reality is 1965. Thompson is 67 to 72. He's not 10 years, he's just 5 years, and he peaks and is mainstream 1970. Croker is 1972 to 77. Oh, and 72 to 77 is replay of 45 to 60. Thompson is 67 to 72. That's a replay of 1918 to 1945. McLuhan is 1900 to 1918, replayed in 57 to 67. LaRouche is 1840 to 1900, replayed between 47 and 57. But on one level, the chart begins in 47, the LaRouche quadrant, and that's because I was aware of the National Security Act. I had that in mind, and LaRouche has spent his life trying to expose the elite that came out of that National Security Act at 47. So what do you think of that? Hey, the chart fits.
Wow.
Wow. That's amazing. You're a genius. Yeah.
What'd you say? You approve?
Another proof.
Yeah, another proof.
Genius.
What? That I'm a genius?
Joking.
Is that what you said?
Yes, I'm joking.
I know, but I want to hear the joke. What is the joke? It's proof that I'm a
that
genius?
proves that you're a genius.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 1947, Arabs and Jews reject British proposal to split Palestine.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the Israeli Middle East problem. And that was probably framed, organized, programmed intentionally.
And it was in February, World War II peace treaty signed. You can just Google what happened in 1947 and get what happened like every day of the year.
So they signed the peace treaty on my birthday, February 2nd, 1947. That's pretty cool. Okay. No wonder my mother thought I was special. She could see all this stuff happening. Lone knows he can make people do what he wants them to. Now remember what Ian said a couple weeks ago? Bob doesn't work. He makes other people work for him. Bob creates work for people. Look at that. I fit the description here.
Oh, gosh.
He knows he can make people do what he wants them to, but has never experienced real human connection. That's iffy. I'm not sure. I think I've experienced some human connection, but Ian says I haven't. Ian says Bob's been on his 10,000-year anti-human quest and has not been human. It's fucked over everybody, including the Medici. So that fits. He has said that about me. You guys are lucky. You just get slapped on the wrist because you didn't dream right or something. I fucked up 10,000 years. And was selfish about it. Very selfish. Okay. One day he encounters Evelyn Q. That sounds like Carolyn. You take the K of Q and put it in front of the Evelyn, you get Carolyn U. One day he encounters...
Why, you're not going to be Evelyn Q? You can't see yourself as an innocent woman who has been completely sheltered by her domineering father?
No, that's slightly. What's his name? Rene, my father, could be subtly a domineering guy, but he didn't make it too unpleasant, but he might have been.
Well, her father made it so unpleasant for her. He brought up 2 children to be...
Well, are you reading ahead?
No. I'm just throwing in because it won't tell you.
How do you know this, what you're saying?
Bob, I read the book, okay?
So it's you remember. Well, let me read a couple more sentences before you fill in.
Yeah.
Okay? So one day he encounters Evelyn Q, an innocent woman who has been completely sheltered by a domineering father. She is the first person he is mentally and physically connected with. So we don't know why that happens. Evelyn's father finds out about the relationship and kills Evelyn and himself. Holy shit, that's a violent...
This
early
is in
step.
the first pages.
The father kills Evelyn.
But it wasn't quite like that. He was trying to kill Lone, who came upon Evelyn in the woods. Evelyn had been sheltered for, I think it was 15 years. She had never seen another human besides her sister and her father. But she started, I think it sounds like at 15, she started to want to have somebody touch her. She was starting to blossom. But here she was in this long dress, high collar, gloves on, no skin showing. So she started radiating, emoting out this need. And Lone was in the woods, just, half animal, half human, and he picked up the call. So he made himself, tear up an underground gate that was surrounding the property through a stream and found her. And they were just sitting, sort of looking at each other and just, I think, touching each other's hands and just going off into bliss by eye contact. The father comes along, goes crazy, starts beating at Lone, and he escapes.
Lone escapes.
And as he's escaping, Evelyn tries to stop her father. Her father swings around and slashes her in the head, and that's how he kills her.
By accident, because he's slashing at Lone, and he hits her.
Right, but when Lone saw that, the last thing he did before he escaped was he used his telepathic powers, stared at the father. The father marches back to his office and shoots himself.
So Lone caused that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, he can make people do what they want them to do.
Yeah.
What he wants them to do.
So that's in the first few pages.
Well, how do we adapt that to Dobbstown? Did that happen to you, Carolyn? Did you get wiped out by domineering father?
No, gosh, he was such a wimp. No, that wouldn't have been...
What about you, Bert? Was your sister dominated by a father? No?
No.
Roxy, did you have a dominating father?
Domineering.
Right, but Roxy spent a lot of time alone. So there is a lone aspect in Roxy's life. Let's see.
No, it's the whole sort of good and evil. The father, knew evil, and he wanted to bring the children up in completely good. The older girl, he said, knew evil and learned to avoid it, but they wanted to bring up the younger sister, who was younger by 4 years, just knowing good. So it's good and evil. And Lone's whole thing was food, and I thought it was like food and fear were his two motivators. So
for what?
For his life.
Oh, food and fear?
Yeah, he'd have to run away from people who would attack him because he...
They were the things that caused him.
Strange.
Food to live and move.
Yeah.
Food, fear. So is Evelyn the young sheltered daughter?
Yes.
So who's the sister?
I think Alicia, she's 19.
Oh, okay. So now look at Zappa identifying with it. He definitely had a lonely youth. All right? He is a lone guy. He's an oddball. He might not connect well with people. So this would be Zappa identifying with lone.
Yeah, I think it is mainly about Lone, as it says, the first part of the novel. I think Evelyn Q just comes into it just to wake him up, and then that's her role. So she's not part of the Gestalt at all. She's dead.
Yeah. Zappa had a girlfriend in high school around that time, and the parents they objected to it, so they moved away. So he lost his, you could say, first love or whatever. That might have hurt him. But he also did things and had bands, so he wasn't totally alone. But his intelligence may be isolated. When you read his younger brother's book, you pick up a lot. His younger brother witnessed the lone Frank. Right? And talks about it. Mm-hmm. Let's see. But Frank was, he functioned. He wasn't isolated. So during this incident, Lone barely escapes a beating from the father. Bleeding and nearly dead, he is found and then adopted by the Prods.
Dobbs.
That's the Dobbs.
Dobbs.
By the Dobbs.
Right.
Many people write my name as Bob Dodds, D-O-D-D-S.
Mm-hmm.
Perversely do that. And this guy is Dodds with a PR in front of replacing the B.
It's like they do Dean as Bean, and it makes me burp.
Yeah. Yeah, Carol hates being called Dr.
I hate
Bean.
beans. I hate beans.
Adopted by the Prods, a poor farming couple, and lives with them for about 7 years.
Yeah.
But he's 25. But kind of useless.
Well, the way they described it to themselves was that they thought the beating kind of addled him and put him in shock, and they treated him like a child and sort of brought him up as if he was their little baby.
They didn't know how long he'd be there. They just helped him as long as he seemed to need them.
Right.
And you were remembering that part.
Read it.
Whoa, what? How much did you read this morning?
I'm a fast reader.
Boy, you read 20 pages?
At least.
Okay. So when Mrs. Prod becomes pregnant, the couple are about to ask Lone to leave, but he makes his departure appear to be his own idea. Lone builds a shelter in the forest and is soon joined by 3 runaway children. Janie, an 8-year-old with a telekinetic gift, and the twins Bonnie and Beanie. There's Dr. Bean.
Oh my
Bonnie
gosh,
and
right.
Connie and Beanie. It's right there, Bonnie and Beanie. What do you think of that? Does that make you faint, Roxy? Look at that. Connie and Beanie.
Yeah.
Beanie.
Connie, wow.
And the twins Bonnie and Beanie, who cannot speak but possess the ability to teleport.
They're so cute.
So he's fragmenting the different ESP abilities into different people.
Right.
This guy can telekinetic. This other person can teleport. Well, would that be like parallel worlding, teleporting?
Could be, sure.
Lone return. Okay, so these people, 3 runaway children. Oh, yeah, Bonnie and Beanie. There's 2 of them that can teleport. So this is Frank befriending Motorhead, Ray Collins, and maybe Elliot Ingber or Roy Estrada or Jimmy Carr. Some of the first Mother's Invention. And they formed a band called the Soul Giants, I think. So, okay, so, and they're all got interesting, eccentric talents. So Frank might identify the kind of band he has. Lone returns to the farm to find Mrs. Prod has died after giving birth to a mongoloid baby. Oh, did we already see she becomes pregnant? They're asking him to leave, but he leaves anyways. Builds a shelter, and these other people come into his life. Then he goes back to the ranch.
Who had the baby?
Mrs. Prod.
The woman who brought, she and her husband kind of adopted Lone and nursed him back after he was almost beaten to death.
And then she gets pregnant.
And they didn't have room. He was they'd already had a son who died, Jack. And Lone was in Jack's room, so they have a tiny little house, so they thought, well, when the baby comes, they're not going to have room for the baby and Lone.
So he picked up on it anyways or not, but he left before they could tell him to leave.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and finds Mrs. Prod has died. Does he show up like the day she died? He's the first to know?
A little while later, and Mr. Prod, he's gone into shock.
Okay, so, and it's a mongoloid baby. Lone adopts, he's like love. Lone, the Krishnamurti kind of love, detached love. Aware of process. Lone adopts the baby who has a phenomenal mental capacity and thinks almost like a computer. So this is a chip body, a cyborg, right? Sort of a cyborg person.
Yeah, you and I were talking about that last night where, the autistic kids, are they trying to be more than human and reach other levels of mental capacity that we're not even aware of?
Right. They come in attempting that. They're motivated by that.
Yeah.
So that means he's got 3 people. Now he's got 4 people plus him. That's 5. Lone adopts a baby who has a phenomenal mental capacity and thinks almost like a computer. Together, Lone, Janie is the one who has telekinetic. And
she's amazing. They have her story, and her mother is married to a military guy. He's away, I don't know what war it was back then.
It would be the Korean War.
So she has all these men over all the time, and Janie kind of reads their minds and tells them to shove off and exposes them, and the men are all freaked out by Janie, and they're always leaving. So yeah, she wasn't going to last long with her mother, but it looks like she ran away when she was 8 years old.
How do you know that?
Well, that's what it said, Bob. Janie, an 8-year-old with a telekinetic gift.
Oh, yeah. See the logic, the brilliant logic Dr. Dean has?
See my eyes at work? And then Bonnie and Beanie, when Janie was 4, they were like 2, so they're 6 years old now. And I think they're little African-American little babies who love to teleport without their clothes on. So Janie's always trying to keep them covered up.
Okay, so Lone, Janie, the twins, and Baby, they call the Mongoloid just Baby, form what will be later called the Homo Gestalt. So the Mongoloid baby is sort of like the autistic kids, right?
Yeah.
Later called the Homo Gestalt.
Yeah, I bet in the 50s, autism didn't even really exist.
Okay, Prod's old truck is always getting stuck in the mud, and when Lone asks Baby for a solution, Baby helps Lone build an anti-gravity generator. So that means Baby is Ion, right?
Yeah.
Baby is Ion's like a fucking retard, right?
Yeah.
The way he is, he can get real stupid. Right, Roxy? Are you with me on that, or you disagree? You still in love with Ion?
Disagree.
There, Roxy?
Of course.
She disagrees.
He disagrees violently.
Yeah.
So the Baby
But look at that, anti-gravity. God.
Yeah, I mean, that's ionic there.
Yeah.
That's Bob has Ion. And Bob, anytime he needs to have he can't do nothing.
Yeah.
He can't fucking get the truck out of the suck of the mud. Bob can't deal with that.
Ion, will you kindly make this truck levitate?
So he makes it UFO gravity fucking amazing technology just to help me get the truck out.
Get the truck out of the mud.
Yeah, when Bob makes a mistake, he makes millions. So this is Bob's first millions. Ion dumped an anti-gravity generator on him. Right?
Yeah.
He installs it in Prod's truck, only to find that Prod has left for Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Prod just couldn't get over losing his wife and the baby.
Yeah, this is after the baby
died.
But wait a minute.
No, sorry, after losing his wife. Sorry.
So Lone adopts the baby away from Mr. Prod. Mr. Prod doesn't care.
Yeah, right. Well, he's in shock, so
he can't function.
Can't function.
Okay. The second part of the novel is called Baby is 3. Baby is 3. Now, there's a line in Finney's Way, gray at 3, which McLuhan said, yes, the kids are been so acquainted with information TV stuff, by the time they're 3, they're gray compared to previous generations. That's how fast they age. So Baby is 3. The second part of the novel is Baby is 3, which occurred several years after The Fabulous Idiot. Jerry Thompson, a street urchin, and wasn't Lone a street who was in...
What?
At 25, yeah.
He's number 6.
Lone was on the street, too, at 25 years old.
Right.
Now, he has telepathy.
Jerry's, how old? Jerry would be like 14 now.
In this, when we're reading.
Yeah.
Jerry Thompson, a street urchin who has grown up in abusive institutions, is possibly sociopathic. He consults a psychiatrist trying to piece his memory back together. Jerry ran away from the institution and was taken in by Lone. So when does he consult a psychiatrist when he's a street urchin?
No, I haven't gotten to the second part of the novel.
Okay, but look at this. Jerry ran away from the institution and was taken in by Lone. Guess who Jerry is? That's Jerry Fialka.
Oh.
Jerry worked for Zappa. And I took him in mentally. I educated him. He had a terrible Catholic education in Flint, Michigan. Never survived it. And he knew Michael Moore. Michael Moore was part of the town in Flint. Ran some, store, newspaper store or something. You saying something, Rox?
Yeah.
That sounded like yep. Is that a combination?
It was a nyah.
Yeah. Oh, negative. Okay. Yeah. Net. Russian.
I was eating a piece of cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Jerry ran away from the institution and was taken in by Lone. What? Lone was killed in an accident?
Oh, I know.
So quickly?
Yeah, I know.
End of Bob.
What?
No.
Bob, we can't have me fucking go.
You can become someone else.
Okay. And Jerry subsequently became the leader of the Gestalt. You know how Jerry's always ripping me off? Running around in classes and speaking at different groups using Bob's stuff. That's Jerry ripped me off. It's right here in the story. Lone was killed in an accident, and Jerry subsequently became the leader of the Gestalt. Lone had instructed the kids to seek out Evelyn's sister, Alicia, after his death. So he said, okay, I'm dying. When I die, go get Alicia. Because she could do stuff. They were educated and fed under her care. So this would be Bonnie and Beanie and Janie. That's 3. Then Jerry leads them, and then they had Alicia. That's another 5, right? This becomes the second 5. So you end up with the 2 kids, Bonnie and Beanie, and the baby.
Yeah.
And the baby. And they add to it Alicia. Okay, soon, however, Jerry learned that domestication and normalization had weakened their Gestalt. He killed Alicia. Look at this violence. Another person gets.
I know.
I mean, who's died so far?
Wow.
The father and Evelyn.
Yeah.
And then
Lone.
Mrs.
Bob.
Prod died. And then Bob. And then Alicia.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Prod, Mr. Prod, he's basically dead too. He took off.
He took off.
All right, so Jerry kills Alicia, and the group returned to living alone in the woods. If anything, Jerry's telepathic abilities are stronger than Lone's. So, okay, they haven't indicated that he had that till now. So you've got only 4 people. Jerry, Baby, and Bonnie and Beanie, right? Right,
Yeah,
Carol?
yeah.
It's only 4.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So the pentad is more complete, and Jerry alone had the pentad, but Jerry didn't. Jerry only had the tetrad. So did Lone have 5 people? He had Evelyn and the sister and the 2 prods and Baby.
You're reaching, Bob. Come on. Reaching.
Okay. But he has more than 4.
We'll do a graph of it all later.
Yeah. Okay, so Jerry's amnesia was caused by Alicia's having accidentally transmitted her memories to his mind when they first met, triggered by her strong emotion. Does that sound like something, Roxy? You identify with that?
I find that funny.
Yeah. His amnesia is caused by her dumping all her data.
And I think the amnesia part means that he was losing his faculties. That's why he killed her. He realized that she'd done something to him. It had weakened their Gestalt, so he killed her. So I think they should have said the Gestalt weakening was caused by Alicia.
Yeah, and they got it after the death. His amnesia was caused by Alicia's having accidentally transmitted her memories to his mind when they first met, triggered by her strong emotional reaction to hearing the words, "Baby is 3." Do you remember that? She's got some weird reaction to "Baby is 3"?
No, I don't remember that. But I don't know, was it 3 years before that Evelyn was killed?
Okay, so what's your point there?
That why would she have reacted unless it was related to that? But I think it was it was much longer because Lone was with the Prods for 7 years. So no, I don't know why she would have reacted.
Okay, Jerry learned about Alicia's entire life, including her past relationship with Lone. In a split second, he learned all that.
Well, she didn't have a relationship with Lone. I don't get that. She never saw Lone.
Yeah, she's Alicia. She's not Evelyn.
Right, so maybe in the story, what we don't see is that Lone went back to Alicia to tell her about the children to help take care of them. I don't know.
Right, yeah, he was told by Lone, or who was told?
Lone told the kids to go to Alicia to get taken care of.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, instructed the kids. So that's the baby and Beanie and Bonnie. So
and Jerry.
Oh, Jerry wasn't there yet.
Yeah, Jerry was there. Look, Lone was killed in an accident, and Jerry subsequently became the leader. Lone had instructed the kids to seek out.
Oh, yeah, he was taken in by Lone. Okay, so he learned about her entire life. That's Jerry, about Alicia, including her past relationship with Lone, in a split second. After being helped by the psychiatrist, Jerry erases the man's memory of him. He erases the psychiatrist's memory of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's that. So it's Jerry and Beanie, Bonnie, and the baby. No Alicia. It's just 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third and concluding part of the novel is called Morality. Again, it occurred several years after the previous part. Lieutenant Hip Barrows, his middle name Hippocrates. There was a...
No, it's not his middle name. It's Hip is short for Hippocrates.
Right, and in San Francisco in the hippie days, Haight-Ashbury, there was a local free clinic, and it was run by a guy who called himself Hippocrates when he wrote a column for the Underground Papers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure, but sounds familiar. Lieutenant Hip Barrows is a gifted engineer who worked for the U.S. Air Force until the incident which led to his incarceration, first in an insane asylum, then in jail. Okay, Janie, and what was she? The telekinetic?
Telekinetic, right. Now, what's interesting about Janie and Hip is Hip met Janie when she was 4. He was at a little party of Janie's mother's. You know, she had a bunch of men in her house.
Was she adult? He was an adult.
He was a young, military guy. His story is interesting. His father was a doctor and somehow hated Hip. He wouldn't let Hip be brilliant. He wanted, he was jealous of his little son. His son was making wireless radios when he was 5 years old and making all these things, and his father would burn them and smash them up. And it wasn't valid. It was a horrible way to grow up. So the kid ran away, and...
what kid?
Hip.
Okay, he ran away too.
He ran away too, and ended up in the Army and in engineering. So he met little Janie when Janie was 4, and Janie was chewing out one of her mother's boyfriends, and she was walking down the hall away from them, and Hip was coming from the washroom or something, and kind of looked at her, and he covered his eyes, and we didn't know what was happening in the novel, so he covered his eyes, and then he uncovered his eyes, and then she said, "Don't ever do that again." And then she walks away. You don't know what's happening until Hip turns around and said to his mother, "You know your daughter's telepathic?" And the mother says, "Don't be ridiculous. I give her vitamins every day."
Okay, I tuned out. Who? I missed that bit. We're with Hip. Hip meets her when she's 4. Then what happens?
At a party, and Hip just, I guess, gets a psychic hit off of her, and he says something to her telepathically. And
to who?
To the 4-year-old, Janie. And Janie glares at him and says, "Don't you ever do that again." And then Hip reports to the mother, "Hey, did you know your daughter's telepathic?" And the mother says, "Don't be ridiculous. I give her vitamins every day."
Is that supposed to be a joke?
Yeah.
And you remember that? You didn't read that.
Read it.
When? How'd you do that?
This morning.
Oh, that's all in the first bit, eh?
Yeah. You were reading it. Didn't you get anything?
No, I didn't get. I only got page 3. It's just about loans.
So anyway, now Hip is Hip is older. She's a young woman. So read that third part.
Okay. He's a gifted engineer, works for the U.S. Air Force until he gets put away, incarcerated, first in a insane asylum, then in jail. Janie, now an adult, befriends him and helps him regain his health. He slowly remembers what had happened. What had happened? That's his problem with his father?
No, go ahead. He discovered.
He discovered some odd effects on an anti-aircraft range. Practice shells fired in a certain area were all duds. Barrows does magnetic tests and finally discovers the anti-gravity machine, still on the rusted-out old truck on the nearby farm. All right, so that's, okay. That's like ion affecting machines.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry knows of Hip's investigation and poses the common soldier assisting Hip, then launching the anti-grav into space and stopping Hip from saving it. He then mentally attacks Hip to make him look insane. To make Hip look insane, right?
Yep.
Driving him to a mental breakdown and amnesia. Okay, so Hip is in the area, in the neighborhood, and he gets zapped by Jerry but doesn't know it. But now he's remembering through Jerry's friend, Janie.
I don't know if Jane's a friend of Jerry.
But
they probably don't like him.
They live together. He then mentally attacks Hip to make him look insane, driving him to a mental breakdown and amnesia. Jerry does this because Baby has told him that if the anti-grav was discovered, it would lead either to a terrible war or to the complete collapse of the world economy. That sounds like...
That sounds familiar.
That's ionic talk?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
So who did
What are we causing right now?
So Baby, we're calling the collapse of everything.
Yeah.
Even Berlin. Berlin cannot survive our...
Paris is going down.
Paris is going down.
The interaction with Bob.
Yeah, we are... So who's causing this? Baby?
Yeah, Baby told... Well, that's what Baby's computer said.
But it's Jerry and Bonnie and Beanie and Baby. So Barrows, he meets Jane. She helps regain his health. He then remembers what happened. He discovers some odd effects on an anti-aircraft range. Practice shells fired in a certain area were all duds. Barrows does magnetic tests and finally discovers the anti-gravity machine still on the rusted-out old truck on the nearby farm. Jerry knows of Hip's investigation and poses as a common soldier assisting Hip, then launching the anti-gravity device into space and stopping Hip from saving it. He then mentally attacks Hip to make him look insane, driving him to a mental breakdown and amnesia. Didn't we already encounter amnesia? Who was that? What was earlier?
Jerry, the words around Jerry were about his amnesia and seeing a psychiatrist.
Oh, okay.
Just Jerry. Read the last sentence. Stop stopping at the last sentence.
Yeah, so it would lead, Jerry does this, attacks Hip, and because Baby has told him that the anti-grav was discovered, so he's kind of blaming Hip for bringing the anti-gravity device. So he's justified in attacking him because it would either, says little ion, it would either lead to a terrible war or to the complete collapse of the world economy. Jerry is determined to drive Hip permanently insane. Hip confronts Jerry and becomes the last part of the Gestalt, its conscience. So Jerry develops a conscience. So Zappa developed a conscience.
So then there was Janie, Jerry, Hip, and the Bonnie and Beanie. So it never did get the 6 again.
Oh, that's right. They have to have 6? No. Do they have to have 6 people?
You thought it would be a good idea.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great story.
6 extraordinary people come together. Well, they don't get to be together very long.
Right.
Who were the 6?
Lone, Janie, Jerry, Bonnie, Beanie. No, there was
What's the name of the baby? Janie.
Oh, and Baby. Oh, and Baby, yeah.
Right.
So Lone had them all yeah. In the beginning, there were 6, but then they got whittled away.
Well, what the fuck's the point of the story, then? Let's just go read the last page, find out what happened. Look at this. This might be fun.
Frank Zappa's favorite book.
Yeah, and it's a tragedy. It's no happy ending. No wonder you're cynical. So the abilities. Now here's the McLuhan point. Psychic abilities have no healing aspect when the world has been electrified and ESP has become an environment. The extension of ESP makes all these gifts obsolete and useless. There's the McLuhan point. There's a new kind of ESP, and none of these people. So Thurgeon is saying, look, all you guys are going to try to develop your talents. Well, that leads to bullshit, problems. That's not likable? Nobody likes my answer? So it's the battle between Ion and McLuhan. Ion says you can develop these abilities and have no problem, and they're just second nature. McLuhan says, nope, it's all aborted now because the environment has come alive, and the Android meme has all these abilities. You don't. You like that one? So it's about Jerry getting a conscience.
Yeah, it's about. So is that 6 of them now? No,
now Jerry's a bit
5.
like Lone. He has a psychic ability. He's powerful. He just manages to kill Lone, right?
He didn't kill Lone. Lone had an accident. Jerry killed Alicia.
Oh yeah. He killed Alicia. Okay. So they're all sinners. Well, no, Janie is not a sinner. Bonnie and Beanie and the baby. Well, it sounds ridiculous. Maybe they don't want to tell us the conclusion. So we, in chorus, echo Roxy. Is that all there is? What the hell is this? What's that?
Yes, is that more than human? Is that?
Yeah, that's more than human. Well, yeah. So they are more than human, but they have problems. Yeah, they are the thing that is more than human with their abilities. So here's the reception. New York Times reviewer Villiers Gerson placed the novel among its year's best, praising it for, quote, a poetic, moving prose and a deeply examined raison d'etre, or I guess examining of purpose. Groff Conklin described More Than Human as a masterpiece of invention, written in an unmannered prose that still has a poetic, panchromatic individuality. Boucher and McComas praised it for, quote, its crystal clear prose, its intense human warmth, and its depth of psychological probing, as well as its, quote, adroit plotting and ceaseless surge of action, finding it one of the most impressive proofs yet of the possibility of science fiction as part of mainstream literature. Schuyler Miller praised the novel as among the year's best, saying that Sturgeon, quote, has Bradbury's poetry and style without ever running thin, unquote. Writing in the Hartford Courant, reviewer R.W. Wallace praised More Than Human, saying, quote, in its psychological wisdom and its deep humanity, this novel is one of the finest achievements of science fiction. In his books column for FNSF, Damon Knight selected Sturgeon's novel as one of the 10 best science fiction books of the 50s. The 1950s. Now, this is what I noticed when I was reading it. I said, I don't want to read this out loud. This is interesting. I found it pretty interesting, and profound thoughts could come from reading his narrative or his description. So, might have to read the book for that part. Because these people are saying it's got deep psychology insight. That seems to be happening in the first couple of pages, for me. Then writing in 1975, 22 years later, R.D. Mullen declared that in this book, More Than Human, Sturgeon had a theme well suited to his talents and inclinations, and the result is a book that pretty well avoids the mawkishness that mars most of his work. This book is not a masterpiece, but it comes pretty close. Then Aldous and Wingrove found that the novel transcends its own terms and becomes Sturgeon's greatest statement of one of his obsessive themes, which is loneliness and how to cure it. In 2012, the novel was included in the Library of America 2-volume box set, American Science Fiction, 9 classic novels of the 1950s, edited by Gary Wolfe. Is Gary Wolfe the guy who wrote the article on McLuhan for Wired magazine? Let's see. Wouldn't that be funny if that's Gary Wolf? No, it doesn't look like it. He's a professor.
It's Michael Wolf. Michael Wolf.
No, that's the journalist in New York.
Trump.
No, Gary Wolf or some name like that faked a dialogue with McLuhan in Wired magazine in early '96 called "Channeling McLuhan." But it may be someone. Maybe it wasn't Wolf. He doesn't seem to be. He's a professor, teacher, and community service activist. No, he was married to Dee Dee Weil, a teacher and community service activist, in 1996. They held another wedding celebration at the International Conference on the Fantastic and the Arts in a poolside party attended by many of their friends and colleagues in March 9th.